Broadcasting live from an Airstream somewhere in Tornado Alley, bringing you the people, places, and stories from the Panhandle to the Red River. This is your Only in Oklahoma show.
And welcome to the show. Today we're headed back to Guthrie for another spooktacular. That's right, it's OKlaTober. It continues right here. I'm Brett.
And I am Harley.
In my opinion, Guthrie has got to be the most haunted town, like per capita haunted town.
Per square feet.
Per
They have
square
more
foot-
ghosts per square feet. Yeah.
Than anywhere else in Oklahoma. Maybe I'm wrong. Jeff Provine, prove me wrong here.
Well, I am going to say Guthrie was originally the capital of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I think it has transitioned from the capital of Oklahoma to the ghost capital of Oklahoma.
I think it's safe to say one of the, or some of the best ghost tours in the state. I mean, I think if you're going to do a ghost tour in Guthrie, pardon my French, but you've got to have a certain je ne sais quoi and have your shit together, because that's some tall cotton. You got to be able to present the spooky ooky stuff if you're going to do a Guthrie Ghost Walk tour.
Oh, the only thing I think it's missing is grub. I think it was the Guthrie Ghost Walk and grub.
Yep.
I think it would be perfect.
It would be perfect.
Some ghost tacos, some of those ghost pepper tacos.
Oh, well done.
Ooh.
Yeah, I like what you did there. I can't really think of some ghostly guacamole, perhaps.
We're not talking to Joe Frazier.
No.
We're talking to Stacy Frazier over at Guthrie Ghost Walk.
The champion of the Ghost Walks coming up.
Stacy Frazier, greatest spot of all time.
I think she's overrated.
Rocky Marciano, can't take it. Stacy Frazier.
Well, Guthrie has played host to politicians, actors, outlaws, ladies in the night, and those are just some of the spirits that may still frequent the local haunts in downtown Guthrie. Joining us today to shed some light on some of the darkest corridors and alleys, our Spectre specialist, the ghost hostess with the mostest, Stacy Frazier. Stacy, welcome to the show.
Hi, that's a lot to live up to.
Well, it is, and you saw it. There were two takes there, and I'm full disclosure, I had to do that twice.
Full disclosure. There you go. Hi.
So thank you for joining us. So I really appreciate you getting back to us. You're going to be the third show that we're doing from Guthrie. It's almost like we're batting for the home team.
There we go, right there. That's it. Where it all started, where it all began.
Might as well, right?
I think we're going to change the name of the show to the Only in Guthrie show.
Only in Guthrie.
Yes. Well, in speaking of Guthrie, Guthrie obviously was the first capital of Oklahoma. A lot of people don't know that. Some people do. But there's a rich, rich history, and it's something that we're more and more about here lately. But give us kind of a little bit of a history lesson about Guthrie.
Guthrie is phenomenal. First of all, find me another town anywhere on the planet where somebody thought it'd be a good idea to say, on your mark, get set, go, let's start a town. Just the whole process of the land run was just incredible. As you know, if you're born and raised in Oklahoma, you probably had it beaten into your skull. April 22nd, 1889, at noon, the cannon sounded, and between 50 and 80,000 people took off and converged on basically what is now Guthrie. By sundown, Guthrie was a town of over 10,000 people. Now, to put that in perspective, Guthrie's population now is about 11.8. So,
wow.
Imagine everybody that lives in Guthrie now just showing up at the same time. It's just an incredible way to start anything, let alone a town. You had people coming in on horseback, fastest horses, trying to get the lands they wanted. Their families would come in usually later in the day on the train and have the rest of the possessions and the tents and everything. One of the things that I still have trouble wrapping my brain around is the fact that there were really no trees here back then. And in fact, if you think about it, there was nothing back here. Imagine a town of 10,000 people, and now you've got to feed them because there were no farms, there were no orchards, there were no shops. Everything had to be shipped in, from the lumber they built the buildings with to the food that they ate until they could establish those farms and those orchards and those ways of becoming self-sustaining.
We are so spoiled. Kids.
Oh, my Lord.
God, yeah. Try to get a juice box back during the land run.
Good God.
Or a Lunchable, right?
There were people selling, there were kids who were making money selling cups of water straight out of the Cottonwood Creek for a nickel. People were paying other people to stand in line to file their claims.
Oh
you could make a living that first week just, standing in line for people. But one of the most amazing things that came out of that, and this is one of the things that a lot of the paranormal professionals believe has what is at the foundation of why we have so many stories in this town, why we have such an incredible level of paranormal activity. It goes back to the way that it was founded. When I'm doing the tour, one of the things the ways that I found to explain it to people is, a few years back we had Mumford and Son here, Gentlemen of the Road tour.
I was going to mention that, yeah.
Yeah, we have 50,000 people in this town. I still don't know where we put them all. But I always ask people, what's the biggest concert you've ever been to? And, there's always some poor tragic kid that says something just, like Britney Spears or something.
Mm-hmm.
Just very sad. It just breaks my heart. But, think about those major arena concerts, U2, the Stones, something like that. If you are experiencing an event like that, it's obvious that the level of energy in that location is magnified. It truly is more than the sum of its parts.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Gentlemen of the Road were here, that's what Guthrie was. There was a certain level of energy in this town that went above and beyond what it should have been given the number of people that were here.
And if you were one of the lucky ones, kind of not to linger too much on that, but I knew some people that were lucky enough to get tickets, and I knew some people that were not, because not only is it
right.
That's something you don't get, and nothing against Guthrie, but that's something you don't get in a place like Guthrie. And they're international superstars, and you've got 50,000 people that converge on a town with. Yeah, you're talking that's 40,000 more people than you've got right now.
Exactly.
So yeah, absolutely.
And if you put that in terms of just that sensation of energy, and if you talk to like I say, the paranormal professionals, that's what they go back to. They go back to that level of energy. And it's just, a lot of it has to do with just the basic electrical energy that is within every single one of us. I mean, it's what keeps your heart beating. It's the spark that fires the synapses in your brain.
Right.
Electrical energy is a measurable phenomenon. And because the way Guthrie was founded, with everything happened at once, you got to tell, there had to have been that same sensation here of all of that. So you have the perfect combination of events for buildings and locations. You have the people, you have the places, you have the activities that they say that residual energy is left with. And that's one of the reasons, and I think the main reason that they say that Guthrie, we tell people all the time, it's just in sheer numbers, we have more ghost stories per block than any other community we've come across in the state of Oklahoma.
I have no doubt.
It's amazing.
So, Stacy, what kind of experiences have you had in Guthrie on the paranormal side?
On the paranormal side, I'm one of those people that, first of all, I am the world's biggest skeptic, and I'm also the world's biggest baby when it comes to being scared.
Hey, me too.
So it's one of those things where that can be a good thing and that can be a bad thing. But what it's done for me, I think, is it gives me a little bit of perspective going into some of these occurrences, because I have had some experiences in Guthrie, but I didn't know it at the time. And the way to clarify that would be one of the very first stories we ever did, one of the first ones we ever went to was down at the Santa Fe Depot. And it was an encounter I had with someone. Well, no, it was someone who basically intervened on my behalf. And it was an occurrence where, in fact, it was in 2007, celebration of statehood. And one of the ladies at the chamber and I were supposed to be meeting and greeting a couple of buses. Oh, they had us in full costume. It was just so bad.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow or another, one of the local guys that still lives here, an older gentleman, still lives here in town, so you don't get a name, he decided that he was going to be our escort for the evening, whether we wanted him to or not. He also apparently had found some adult beverages somewhere.
Oh boy!
Because the dude was snockered. We couldn't get rid of him, so we went down to the depot to try to lose him, because that was the year that they got the Heartland Flyer, the train, to come back up, and you could ride it up and back. Anyway, we get down there and this idiot follows us. We did what any upstanding, reasonable woman does. You go hide in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And this idiot is out in the hallway waiting for us. Well, it turned out later that, when somebody finally came and rescued us, that they were saying that a woman came out of the bathroom after we went in and spoke to him and basically left the building with him. And the thing is, anybody who's ever been in those bathrooms can vouch for this. The restrooms at the depot in Guthrie are so small. There was barely room for us in these stupid dresses they had us in. And there was nobody in that lady's room when we went in. Nobody came in, nobody left. But the owner swore that we went in. A couple of beats later, this other woman comes out, went over and spoke with the gentleman and walked him out of the building.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, listen, I didn't have a clue that there was even a story down there. This was years before the walk started. It wasn't until maybe 7 years ago that I got the whole story. And there was a woman she was one of the Harvey girls that had worked down there. And this is like 1918. They found out that she was engaged, and her fiance was overseas, World War I. She got yelled at and called to the carpet for it. She disappeared. A year later, that missing fiancé shows up, and he's trying to find her. He spent over a year in Guthrie trying to locate her because she fell off the face of the earth. It wasn't until after he died in 1929 that people started seeing this woman walking along the tracks. All hours of the night, very identifiable in a pale blue dress and all of this other stuff.
Nope.
Yeah, nope.
Nope.
Well, once again, I still didn't know this until I'm talking to this fan. I mean, I had heard certain bits of the story, but, so basically almost 10 years after I didn't know I had an encounter, I'm talking with this family at Boomerang Diner because I had a map. They were trying to find something. Mm-hmm. And it turned out that this man was the great nephew of the fiancée.
Oh wow!
Who when they finally came to get him and take him home because he was just down here drinking at this point, he spent the last 10 years of his life just reading to anyone who would listen the letters that he and Evelyn had exchanged over, while he was deployed. It wasn't until the wife said, "Oh, tell Stacy about that one letter that these people sit down at Christmas and still read these letters. They've kept that oral tradition going, not to mention that historical aspect of it." She goes, "Tell her the one about when she first got there. Apparently when Evelyn first got here, she had gone and she wrote a letter back to Howard and said, 'I bought the most lovely bolt of fabric. It's sky blue.'" Oh. And it was at that moment, it was like two sides of the same coin. You could see it. It went all over me. It wasn't until then that I realized, holy cow, I had something there and I didn't even know it.
So, Stacy, let me ask you this. Again, Guthrie is just, we talk about the energy conductivity of Guthrie. Mm-hmm. Paranormal, it's got to be just like a paranormal. You swing a bat, you can't do that without hitting something that's not there. Are there any more famous or as famous ghosts or, goodness gracious, where do you begin? How long is this tour? 6 hours? There's a lot going on.
No, but I'll tell you what, it's 6 years, and every year I have had new stories. I have collected in the last, end of 6 years, between 45 and 50 stories. And these aren't just stories. These are stories that I have researched and come up with the names. That's what I was
going to ask. If you have just the lady in white, or does the lady in white have a social security number?
Well, and see, that's the thing. For me to put this story on one of my walks, I've got to find those verifiable facts. Obviously we are incapable yet of proving and disproving a lot of this. My mom, even after all this time, she's still convinced that I'm just standing on the street going, "Once upon a time."
Right.
No, that's not the way it works. If I can't find the facts that make the story not only possible but plausible, mm-hmm. then I'm just wasting my time. That's why I always talk about finding the history behind the mystery, because to me, 9 times out of 10, the facts are way better than the fiction.
Oh, absolutely.
So how long does a typical tour last?
On average, about 90 minutes, and sometimes it depends on the group. I've got groups that want to go a little faster, and we do, and I've got groups that I have to throw them out after 2.5 hours. Tell us another one. And we do. We've got some great stories here. I mean, the Bluebell Saloon is one of my favorite buildings in this town. A lot of people don't realize that the Bluebell Saloon has been the Bluebell Saloon since day one. 2 guys came down on the land run. They were business partners. They each had their horse and a couple of cases of beer. They get down here. They stake out the claim at 2nd and Harrison. And they just set up an open-air bar. They emptied out their crates, flipped it upside down, stole a board, and, booyah. It's the Bluebell Saloon.
They invented
it. Came in later. Yeah, with the tent. And because the building is on the historical register now, it will always be the Bluebell Saloon.
Right.
It doesn't matter what's in there. Hector's Mexican Restaurant at the Bluebell Saloon. But that building alone, that is the single most investigated building for paranormal activity in the entire state of Oklahoma. There have been a couple of universities that have funded studies in there. You've got stories going back. I mean, Carrie Nation ran her temperance movement out of Guthrie for a few years. There's stories that involve her in there. There's still hatchet marks on the bar. The upstairs, you had the brothel with Miss Lizzie. And there's stories involving girls, and I'm talking 12, 13 years old, who were not only pressed into prostitution, but basically beaten to death by their patrons for the afternoon.
And that's something you don't hear about. I'm not saying they glorify prostitution in the Old West, but you don't. There's an uglier side to it. That's just heartbreaking.
And the crazy thing is Lizzie was considered a very early philanthropist in this town. I mean, the woman knew how to make money. Oh, I'm sorry, should go to a couple. You're getting ready to lose your farm. I'd want to help. She would financially should hand them a lot of cash, but then she'd take one of their kids and press them into service for a couple of years. I mean, I grew up on Gunsmoke with Miss Kitty and all of that. Cowboys and Indians was fun. Yeah, not so much.
So let me. You said the tour is 90 minutes, and that's probably minus all the questions you get, but kind of walk us through where do we start, where does it end, and all points in between, if you can.
We generally meet in front of the Apothecary Garden, which is a great location because it gives people a place to mill around and hang out. It's at the corner of 2nd and Oklahoma. Depending on the time of year, I mean, this is something that has become a year-round thing. In the summer, we push the start time back to maybe sometimes 8:30, depending on how hot it is and what the light is doing. Otherwise, I mean, we've just gone back to our regular hours, which we start at 7:15. You get a little bit of an intro there, maybe 15 minutes. A lot of what I just talked about, that's what we talk about. We talk about the history of Guthrie and how it was started and why we think we have the activity here that we do. Then I pretty much check everybody's footwear and make sure that everybody do we need to do a hill? Do we not need to do a hill? And we take off and we'll stop at the locations and I'll tell you some of the history of the building and then I'll tell you the ghost story that's associated with it. And then it gets interesting because then we start bringing up the facts and the connections and how the two tie together. And that's when some of the questions come out. And I'll tell you what, I've had groups of kids. I had a group the other night that had 6 kids that were between 7 and 10. They were some of the most amazing questions I've ever had. But so we'll do that. We'll just kind of walk around and like I say, depending on which route I'm doing, we'll visit those locations. Sometimes we veer off into something else if somebody has questions. I love it when people bring their equipment. I've got people that will bring their paranormal tracking equipment with them. I've got people that, I mean, you're always welcome to take photographs. That's when it gets fun, is when you've got people standing side by side taking a picture of the building and they come up with different photos.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, it's amazing. This time of year, we're getting ready into the busy season, to go into the busy season. Through September, we're walking every Friday and Saturday, like at 7:15. Starting in October, this is when it really starts to, everybody just, you're in the mood for it. Everything's building to Halloween. You're totally in the mood for it. By the 2nd, 3rd week of October, I'm walking Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll do a 7:15. I'll do a 10 o'clock on Fridays and Saturdays. And then I'll even throw in some midnights on Saturday nights just because it gets, one thing, there's nothing like a midnight tour. Usually the groups are maybe 10, 12 people. Town is absolutely silent. And I'm really tired. So Lord knows what story is going to come out. I may put them all together and get confused, but those are some of the most interesting ones.
So you just keep your Fitbit just charged on the charger constantly?
Oh, Lord, it explodes. It just totally, I actually quit wearing it because it was depressing. I'm like, no wonder I'm tired.
Well, I was kind of kidding, but apparently I was close.
No, I'm tracking those miles because it's got to count towards something. There's got to be some kind of a prize.
Yeah, there's got to be somewhere at the end of the rainbow.
Some of the stories are historical in that they happened one time in the past. It was a one-time thing. Some of the stories are current, as in they happen today. And some of them, quite a few of them, are still happening now. People are still having these encounters. That's what's so amazing about this, is that it's not just everything is in the past. I mean, there are encounters that people have here all the time. And, you know, what is it they always say? There's no such thing as a coincidence. That is so absolutely true. It may take 2 or 3 years before it plays out, but I will come across things that I started out with a story, 5 years ago, and bits and pieces come around, and all of a sudden I'm going, wow. Great example of that is, the earliest ghost story I found in Guthrie was actually in a newspaper in 1891.
Oh, wow.
I know. I gotta be, okay, talk about coming clean. When I first read that, my absolute first thought was, have people even been here long enough to die? And then,
right.
Then your sanity takes over and goes, you're an idiot. But when I started doing this, there weren't a lot of ghost walks in the state. Tulsa had one they would do, random events. Jeff Provine down at the University of Oklahoma has always done like monthly tours. But as far as just a dedicated route and city and stuff, there wasn't a lot. So I thought I had kind of a unique thing going. Imagine my surprise when I flipped the page in this 1891 newspaper and I see an advertisement for a ghost walk in Guthrie.
Are you serious?
I am absolutely serious. I was just like, well, this sucks. But no, here's what, I thought, well, crap, I'm not as, here's what I found out. First of all, they were hosted by a woman named Madame Aubrey. Now, somebody suggested you should put Madam in front of your names. I'm like, no, that's a whole different, no, we're not doing that. I very quickly realized that what Aubrey was calling a ghost walk, today we would call a seance. And so I felt a whole lot better. Yeah, her thing was she said she was able to commune with the departed and make them walk amongst the living once again, hence the term ghost walk. Now, she was here in Guthrie for almost 3 years, and she started out just doing one-on-ones in the boarding house she stayed in, the Atkinson Hotel. But in her heyday here, she was being hosted by, the talk of the town. She would have very prominent citizens have 30 or 40 people in their homes. They would have these big elaborate ghost walks, as they called it. And she was charging $1 a head.
Oh, wow.
In 1891. Now, I charged $10 for adults. Y'all are getting a deal, man.
Yeah.
But here's so I knew that. Here's the thing that took several years to play out. The Atkinson Hotel, I finally figured out where it was in town. It was in 2nd Street, almost just across from the police station. And I happened to find a city directory that said Atkinson Hotel, and it said proprietor. First initial was S, last name was Frazier.
Oh.
Now, thank you. And I went, Frazier. I mean, F-R-A-Z-I-E-R. I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of cool. Well, so there was that moment of, that's kind of weird, because obviously, like you said, my last name is Frazier.
Yeah.
Well, I finally found this guy's name, and his name was Stanley Leonard Frazier. And most people would just go, oh no. I saw that and went, oh, because many eons ago, when I graduated from college with my first degree, they had my diploma wrong. Yeah. My mom took a look at it before I even saw it. She goes, well, isn't this nice? The son I always wanted but never had finally graduated from college after 9 years. My first college diploma said Stanley L. Frazier.
Sorry.
Maybe I've been doing this longer than I thought. I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, but I would be a little, I'd still be a little weirded out, but maybe feeling like it's kind of my destiny at this point.
Yeah, and that's my first thought was, oh God, but yeah, and there was that, well, I guess this is what I need to be doing. Yeah, it was just, never stop looking even on a story you've already found, because you never know what you're going to find. never.
So, Stacy, do you do private tours? Say if you had
Yes.
a group or something like that? How does
I
that
sure
work?
do. I do private tours. I also do historical tours. I mean, some people want the ghost stories, some people don't. Basically, it's just connecting with me and figuring out how many people you've got and when you want to go. And I'm really very flexible as far as when we can do those. I do have someone who walks for me when I'm busy with something else. I've got a really good friend of mine, Stephanie Fortney, who is actually, she does a lot of performing here at the Pollard Theater, so she's not afraid to get up and talk in front of a big group of people. In fact, we're already planning every Halloween. We have what we call the Steph Special, and it's basically me allowing her to be herself, because as I've told her, when you are walking the ghost walk, you are representing us, and you got to keep your language clean.
Right.
You got to stick to the stories, right? Because Stephanie is a lunatic. And so for the Steph Special, every year she does a late walk on Halloween, and I cannot vouch for the validity of anything that comes out of her mouth. It basically turns into a pub crawl.
Oh, no.
And yeah, and there was 2 years ago, I met up with the group after and they were all very happy. And I said, "How was it?" And this one guy goes, "This was amazing. It's like," he goes, "the way she told this story, I felt like I was experiencing, I don't know, Lord of the Rings in Guthrie."
Wow.
I thought, I have no. Oh, when I asked Stephanie, I said, "What on earth did you tell him?" She goes, "I told him Lord of the Rings if it happened to Guthrie." Oh my God.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah, we do private, especially this time of year. We do a lot of private walks around the holidays.
Now, does she
That's the other thing.
go? I'm sorry.
We do dedicated Christmas walks
Ooh.
starting at the end of September. I mean, I've had people go, "Christmas ghost stories? That's stupid." I'm like, hello, Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
I've got a dedicated route of Christmas stories that we do, and we'll do, family reunions, all that stuff. It's just, it's a great way to get people out into the community and to hear the stories and to learn a little bit of history.
Stacy, and kind of, that's really the goal, and why, number one, why I reached out to you is because we love this kind of thing. We used to, in our former life, we did nothing but paranormal. But what I like about it is there's such a rich history in Guthrie. You've got so many things going on up there, telling these stories, and really kind of, and doing it in a way that's respectful and kid-friendly, and all the things that bring communities together, because it's such a tight-knit community up there. So let me ask you this. It was pretty easy for me to find you, but if somebody's looking to get those private tours or get a hold of you or find you in any number of ways, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Like you say, with the days of social media, there are so many ways. Obviously, you can always call us, 405-293-8404. You can go to our website, www.GuthrieGhostWalk.com. You can find us on Facebook. We have a Guthrie Ghost Walk Facebook page. We do a lot of messaging back and forth that way. If you're looking for reviews, I mean, if you want to go to the Travel OK Oklahoma tourism site, you can find us on there and get other people's opinion of what they think the walk is and how they approached it and everything. I've tried to make it very accessible, very approachable, and also very available to groups of all ages. I mean, obviously, I sometimes will have young kids on the walk, and I have to change the tone a little bit.
Right.
It's amazing how many different words you can find for bordello or brothel or, and I got to tell you, oh my God, invariably I'm using those words, and there's always somebody, and it's somebody's dad every time that will sit in the back and he'll go, "You mean whorehouse?"
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
That's
what
me.
I mean. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, that's you.
I'm that dad.
So I try to be very, you're that dad. I try to be very aware of the audience and what they're receptive to and the age groups. I mean, I did a walk last week where I had a little kid, and I say little, his younger brother who was 7 was having a rocking good time. This kid was 13, and for some reason he was really uncomfortable. So just, I don't know if it's a personal experience he had or what, but it's just being aware of who you're telling stories to and trying to make each group as customized to them and to what level of story, like you had mentioning, blood and gore and stuff like that. It really depends upon the audience as to how far I will go into some of these stories.
Well, Stacy, we really appreciate what you're doing down there. We're definitely going to have you come back on the show a little closer to Christmas and tell us a little bit more about the Christmas tours. But thank you very much for coming on the show today. We really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely.
Sure, come to Guthrie.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for people from all over to converge on Guthrie. Well, Stacy, again, we really appreciate everything you're doing up there, and hope to hear from you soon.
You bet. Thanks.
All right, peeps. So when you're out and about in the month of October or any month,
Really,
all of the months
that end in, oh wait, they all have different letters, but you get, you know what, all the months with the alphabets that are representative of those months.
Sure. But when you're out and about in Oklahoma doing the touristy thing, be sure and let them know.
Tell them Only an OK Show sent you.
Well, this has been the Only an OK Show. I'm Harley.
And I'm Brett.
And we're out of here.
Peace.
I'm going to say, Fraser over at the Guthrie Ghost Walk.
Yeah.
You know what I like is when the ghosts don't walk. You know, if the ghost had a wheelchair or something, that'd be great because, you know, my tendonitis starts acting up.
It's sciatica, Phil. You've got sciatica. It's not tendonitis.
Well, it hurts in my tendons. I think that's tendonitis.
Oh, Phil.
Okay, let's roll.
When I was in high school, our school colors were clear and clear. You know what that is?
Yeah, what's his name?
Stephen Wright.
Yeah.
So what show are we doing?
Guthrie Ghost Walk. Stacy Fraser. It's in, you guessed it, Guthrie.
Today we're doing some more, you know, we like to do those spooky shows in October. And today's no different than the last week we did.
No, dude. No. Your Canadian sucks. I got an idea.
It's not Canadian.
It sounded Canadian. Dude, that was
Canadian.
bad.
It's not Canadian. Midwestern.
No.
It doesn't matter. It's a voice. You do something.
I have an idea.
Well,
I don't
it.
do voices.
Do it.
But here's the thing.
I do voices.
Here's the thing.
What?
I don't know how hard this is going to be to do, but hillbilly NPR.
Oh boy.
Because you gotta almost whisper, but you also have to do it with a twang.
Show me.
Welcome to the Only an OK Show. I'm Harley.
Yeah, I'm Brett. Huh.
Today we're talking about
Hang on a minute.
ghosts.
Wait, we are? I thought I'm looking at the paper here. It says we're talking about spectacles.
We're talking about spectacles and testicles.
Oh, it says spectators.
You know what a spectator is, right? That's a potato wearing glasses.
Whenever I think of the past, it always brings up a bunch of memories.
Yeah, it's okay. I get it, Stephen Wright. Come on. Hillbilly NPR, do it.
I installed a skylight in my apartment. What's a ghost and a dead person have in common? They're both dead.
Okay, let's go.
I have a real question, though. Are ghosts just dead people's shadows?
Yes.
It's a good theory.
I cracked the case, boss.
This concludes the internet.
What's the name? Welcome to Ghost Adventures. We figured this whole thing out, man. So here's the thing. Turns out ghosts are just shadows of dead people. Shadows don't have anywhere to go when a person dies. So they just walk around doing what they were doing before.
Man.
Yeah, man, it makes perfect sense.
If it's a dead person's shadow, is it still skinny in the sunlight? You know, the shadow stretches.
Can we go, please?
What are we done?
Go.
Guthrie Ghost Walk. The Guthrie Ghost Walk. Suffering succotash. You ready?
3, 2, 1.
And welcome to the show. Spooktacular OKlaTober continues. We're on the road again, this time headed back to the Guthrie Ghost Walk. I was making fun of myself the second time.
The Guthrie Goth Rock.
It's goth rock on this episode. If you're not sad, then we're not doing our jobs. I'm Brett. Interesting question in the listener feedback today. Are ghosts the shadows of dead people? Interesting query, guys. We're going to get into it.
Okay, let's go, man.
One of these days we got to tell the story about going to the... I'll never forget the fortune teller thing. I don't know why I'm thinking that.
The fortune teller thing?
The fortune teller, we got turned away.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. The palm reader over there on...
We went on our lunch break.
Meridian?
Yeah, we went on our damn lunch break.
And we got turned away. I forgot about that.
There's a meme. It's so funny. It says, you've probably seen it. Psychic fair canceled due to foreseen circumstances. It's the funniest shit I've seen all week. Anyway,
that's awesome.
I'll just do the Guthrie thing again. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Dude, your nose is trying not to laugh, man. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Don't look at me. 3, 2, 1. And welcome to the show. 3, 2. I said 1, 2, 3. Now I'm doing 3, 2, 1. Dude, I'm gonna freaking unlock the universe. 3, 2, 1.